Okay, here's another one. I thought I would talk about this. I gave it some time, but all right. So I think everybody has seen the footage. Hold on, let me close the door right quick. All right, there we go. So I think everybody has seen the footage of George W. Bush coming back into the news. Abby Martin's husband. I think they're still married. Of course, Abby Martin of the Empire Files and all that business. He was dressed in a suit. He was in the far back saying, "You killed 1 million Iraqis," and all this sort of thing. And basically, Bush just kind of laughed it off. Ha 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 ha. Oh, boo. And of course, all that business, right? And he was, summarily kicked out and all that business. But apparently, according to something I'm reading here, and make sure I'm looking at it right. Did I miss it? I may have. Yeah, here we go. So GW, this is from KXAN News down in Austin. Bush to headline fundraiser for Cheney after Trump backs foe. So this is from when? Okay, so this is 22nd. So this is today. Former President George W. Bush will headline a fundraiser next month for top Donald Trump critic Liz Cheney. Liz Cheney, of course, is involved with, is basically the head. Basically, she's a HNIC head neocon in charge, though. Bush will be the featured guest at an October 18th event in Dallas supporting the Wyoming Congresswoman's campaign. Dick Cheney, daughter. Mm-hmm. Bush's involvement puts the two former Republican presidents directly at odds and underscores the deep tension that remains within the party between Trumpism and the GOP's establishment wing. Basically, I was going to title this Can Republicans Win by Returning to Neoconservatism? I don't know if that was really the best title, so I just said G.W. Bush is returning to politics. But anywho, Bush spokesperson Freddie Ford, former president, has historically helped a few key candidates and friends each cycle, so this one shouldn't come as any surprise. There goes the cat. All right, I can't keep anything quiet in here with these two. While Bush has generally kept a low profile since leaving office in 2009, he delivered a pointed speech earlier this month on the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks, in which he warned the country's growing internal division and a violence that gathers within. Let me see here. The warning came 8 months after the violent insurrection. He shouldn't be lecturing us about anything, Trump said in a statement. The World Trade Center came down during his watch. Bush led a failed and uninspiring presidency. He shouldn't be lecturing anybody. Arguably, Trump is kind of correct on that. Yeah. That includes bringing $1.88 million from April through June and $1.5 million in the first 3 months of 2021. Reports show Trump has endorsed several other Republican challenging incumbents. Anthony Gonzalez of Ohio last week. He'll be retiring instead of re-election. Okay. So we see GW returning. He's kind of, like I say, this is kind of predicted. We saw that he was on the Sunday morning. He was on CBS's Sunday morning show a few months back, and we saw him with his little paintings and everything, kind of giving lip service to Chicano migrants coming into Texas. Hold on, I'm gonna close the door. Hold on. And now we've seen this push and everything, and I think that there's going to be more of this stuff to come out, right? And I think basically what Bush is doing, in my opinion, is trying to. I think the Republicans are just on the ropes. I think they realize that if they want to try and maintain any legitimacy, I guess their whole thing is this. I mean, it's just either let's go the MAGA-peed way and basically just try to be as supportive of Trump as possible because he made the country great, or we're gonna return to some sort of neoconservative, let's bomb countries and give some sort of lip service to ideas like the whole screw up of the idea that no child left behind, all this bullshit that never really worked, but it gave enough lip service to pretend like they cared, George W. Bush is somebody that a lot of folks have really revised his presidency in many ways. They ignore, of course, the fact that he was shot in the face. Or excuse me, not him. I'm sorry, I'm getting it mixed up. I'm getting very schizo here. I'm sorry for the dead air. What I was going to say, though, is basically he has had a renaissance that many Democrats have such a deep hatred for Trump that they would rather simp, at least in some way, to George W. Bush. And of course, talking about the Iraq War, talking about the, bringing up all the stuff, there's a lot of revised ideas of this. I can remember, of course, Will Ferrell on SNL making fun by saying lockbox, right? The debate with Al Gore. And of course, people will still cope about that and say, well, Al Gore actually won, maybe, hanging chads, all that business. I mean, the thing is, Al Gore was boring. The thing is, you can go ahead and say, oh, yeah, well, he did win. But the thing is, though, it's this whole voting for lesser of two evils. That's what it is. I mean, I didn't think about that back in 2004 because I was 17 or 18, I think, at the time. I really wasn't paying attention. But anywho, now that we've seen all this, will people be pushing back on this? And I think, yeah, there is pushback. But I think that generally speaking, the powers that be and the mainstream media will praise GW and see him as a non-boat rocker, as somebody who will put the GOP back into its place. Meaning, at least in my opinion, bringing the GOP back into the realm of, I'm trying to think of how to describe it exactly, but the GOP trying to describe itself as more of a giving lip service to people without actually giving a shit about them. Which I guess you could say it was like that under Trump. But of course, Trump also was more of an, at least on paper anyway, an anti-interventionist. And a lot of, neocons felt like that wasn't good because we had to be the world policeman and all that sort of thing. I just think that Republicans are out of ideas. I think they are. I think that they can try to simp for, Latinos and Hispanos and Chicanos as much as they want. But they know, I think deep down, that they don't really have a chance, They can hold on as long as they can, but I think, they're going to, I mean, the thing is this, is that both parties are out of touch with the people. I think most people can agree on that. Both parties are out of touch. You can go ahead and say, but Dems are doing this, but, whichever. In general, they're out of touch. They don't care. They just want to keep up the status quo. And the fact is that, promoting G.W. Bush as somebody who is going to be like a counterbalance, since you can't use the Lincoln Project because obviously, one of their members being a pedophile kind of, destroys whatever legitimacy you have. The thing is I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up pretty soon, but I'm just ranting and raving at this point. George W. Bush is somebody who pretended a lot of his life. He put on the fake Texas accent, and in general, Texans, at least the more conservative ones, were just like, well, he's good enough for us, I guess, right? Because that's just how people are. He, of course, avoided, service in Vietnam by going into the Texas Air National Guard. Numerous businesses that went bust. Was a cocaine user, this and that. Eventually kicked it, and, he became this sort of, golden boy. And obviously he is from Connecticut. And, of course, his whole family from there. He's a Yale man and all that sort of thing. Skull and bones, et cetera, et cetera. Like I say, I don't want to make this video purely about, oh, yes, well, we all know what George W. Bush is and everything else about him. And Dick Cheney's the one that shot the guy in the face. The thing is that George W. Bush is just a cheap attempt at this point, and I don't think it's going to work, is a cheap attempt to try to bring the Republicans back to this sort of, we love America sort of thing. And the thing is that you can't put the genie back in the bottle. You can go ahead and be angry about Trump all day. But the thing is, though, is that regardless, is that he opened up deep wounds, as presidents do, as politicians do. And the thing is that both the parties are desperately trying to, just stop the blood flow, basically, and stop the anger. And I do think that there's genuine anger out there, but I think that people know that, I'm going to sound like an anarchist when I say it like this, but the power of the state is too strong, and that they're not, whatever dissidents they have, unless they're people that are getting money through, like Libsyn or something like that, making their podcast, I think they know that there's no real movement, I know, mob movement and all that joke, but there's no real groups out there. There's local yokel stuff, but that's not real politics. That's not real politique. It's just local stuff to try to improve some vague notions. But in general, it's more of, we just want media attention, It's not politics. It's just local attention to some local issues, generally speaking. Anywho, I think it will fail miserably, and it's not gonna go the way it was intended to, and things will just continue to get worse and worse. That's all I gotta say to that. Anyway, hopefully y'all enjoy that. See you later. Bye-bye.